Are you thinking of moving to Shoreline, Washington, but you just don't know enough about it? Well, stay tuned this video. I am going to give you 5 reasons that you may not want to live in Shoreline unless you can handle those 5 things. So stay tuned. What's up, everybody? My name is Tova Williamson, and I'm a local real estate agent in the Seattle metro area. On this channel, I shoot tons of videos of what it's like to live here. So if you want more of those videos, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And if you're thinking of moving to Seattle metro area, give us a call, email, text. We got your back when you're moving to Seattle. So today in this video, I am talking about Shoreline, Washington, and I'm going to give kind of some 5 negatives about the town. There's plenty of positives, like with any place, there's good and there's bad. So it's a fine place to live, but there are some things that people may not realize when they're moving here and may not think about. So these are some things like, unless you can handle these 5 things, Shoreline might not be the place for you. So just kind of first starting in on it, I'll share my screen and show you where Shoreline is. So Shoreline is a suburb just north of Seattle right here that we see. So this is like Seattle. So Shoreline's just the next city, kind of just immediately north of Seattle. It's totally like a bedroom community. It was basically made for people who live in Seattle or who work in Seattle and want to live a little bit closer, but not really live in Seattle. So definitely has a very suburban feel. There's a lot of nice areas kind of along here on Richmond Beach and along the water. You can find houses with really nice water views. So it's kind of Shoreline in a nutshell. Not the most exciting place, but that's where it is located. So we're gonna just dive right on in. So number 1 con that there might be on Shoreline that you might not like is there's not a huge downtown area. It doesn't have a ton of character. There's a lot of other suburban cities that are suburbs to Seattle that have a lot of character and charm, maybe have their own little charming downtown areas. Shoreline doesn't really have that. I mean, it is, like I said before, it's a pretty much straight up bedroom community. Was just, I don't know the full history, but it was like basically made for people and developed for people that work in Seattle and want to live somewhat close, but not in the city. So it's very suburban feeling. Like I said, there's not a true downtown area. There's different shopping centers, a lot of strip malls and stuff, but just not really like a really charming downtown area. So if you're wanting something like that, like you don't mind living in a smaller town, but you want a kind of a charming downtown or just a little bit of stuff going on, Shoreline doesn't really have that. There is the light rail that will be coming 2024 this year. At some point, it's going to be opening. It's going along I-5. Pull up the map here one more time to show you. So I think I've definitely noticed along those areas where the light rail stations will be and where they're coming that there's a lot more stuff being built up. There's been a lot of growth in Shoreline, a lot of new construction, townhouses, condos, homes, housing developments. There's a lot more people moving up there. There's going to need to be a lot more cafes and coffee shops and a little bit more kind of like downtown area. So I think once that light rail opens and once stuff starts getting more going, it's definitely going to happen. You're definitely going to see more shops. So I-5 is here. There's going to be a stop on 148th and then 185th. So 148th is just like right around here. 145th is the cutoff of Seattle. So there's going to be a light rail station up here, and then there will be a one on 185th, which is right here. So right around here. So something to keep in mind. I definitely think we will see more development as the years go by, but at the moment it's just not, doesn't have like a really character kind of downtown area. So just something to keep in mind. Number 2 is cost of living. So it's not the cheapest place, definitely less expensive in Seattle. You're definitely going to get more for your money than in Seattle. You're going to get a larger house for the same price that you would get in Seattle. You're going to get larger lots typically than you do in Seattle or maybe some of the east side suburbs, but it's still not a super affordable place to live when you're looking at housing prices. So, I mean, single family homes in Shoreline for the last quarter of 2023 were around $797,000. So you're still up there. Like I said before, what you get for that is definitely a bigger house than what you would get in Seattle and Shoreline. There's a lot of like 80s, 90s, even 70s kind of like split level rambler type of homes. So you see a lot of those and they're on big lots. So you're going to get like a 3-bedroom, probably maybe 1.5 to 3-bedroom for that price. We're in Seattle at that price. I mean, you're looking at a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, maybe really small 500, 800 square foot house or townhouses. So your money does stretch far, but it's still not, I mean, the most affordable place for sure. And then condos, you're looking at 375,000 median sales price. So condos, you're definitely going to get a lot more bang for your buck. And like I said, we've seen a lot more condos and townhouses being built. Of course, those are newer and kind of have more amenities. So they're probably not going to be in that 375 range. They'll probably be higher, but you can still find a little bit more affordable condos in the area, but it still is, I mean, it's just north of Seattle. It's really close to Seattle. That's why a lot of people live there. So its proximity to Seattle does keep the prices high compared to maybe some other suburbs that are further north or further south and further away, because it is just like right there. And then once that light rail opens, I think it will only increase prices. Number 3 con that maybe you should be aware of, it's something I feel like it's common in this area. It's just something that I notice when I'm in Shoreline. There's a lot of trees. This isn't a bad thing, but there's a lot of really big trees in the area. I feel like in Seattle, around there, a lot of stuff has been developed, so you just don't see like a high concentration of like foresty trees. A lot of Shoreline is very forested, kind of has that very like woodsy feel, and it's very shady and dark sometimes on some of the housing lots. So like trees aren't bad, trees are great, but sometimes it can be really dark on some of the lots that you're looking at, especially we get the gray days. And then if your house is like shaded all the time, it's just going to be really dark and you're going to get like a lot of moss. So there's something to keep in mind when you're looking at homes and looking for places to live. If light bright is important to you, there's just a lot of like shady kind of woodsy tree areas in Shoreline. And then with that comes like we get a lot of windstorms in the wintertime. So those big trees, like when we get windstorms, they're just like blowing and they'll knock over and power goes out a lot in that area, I've noticed. So just something to keep in mind too, that these big trees that are around, if the wind blows, you're going to see like branches all over. And then it just seems like, I don't know, this is like purely anecdotal, but it just seems like the power goes out often up there. You just hear about it a lot because there's so many trees in some of these neighborhoods. So just something to keep in mind. Again, trees are great. We love trees in the Pacific Northwest, but they can cause issues, especially with the weather that we get here sometimes in the winter. So that is number 3. Number 4 thing that we're going to talk about is Aurora Ave. So this is a strip of road that runs north and south, a little bit parallel to I-5, and it has kind of a notorious reputation. So Aurora, you see right here, this road that goes north and south. It's another way to get north and south. It has a lot of lights. So sometimes it's not always faster than I-5 if there's traffic. But anyways, this strip definitely has a reputation for being kind of sketch, especially at night. There's sometimes some undesirable activity going on, especially in the Seattle side. You'll see prostitution going on, some stuff that's just not, you know, something you really want to be walking around in late at night. So just something to keep in mind. I think once you get, I mean, it's not good really all along Aurora. You drive around, you see, but that's where a lot of grocery stores are. That's where a lot of shopping strip malls are. So you're going to be going there, but it's just something to keep in mind if you're looking at a house. I mean, like right off 99 in Aurora, you know, it's not the best. Sometimes if you get just a few blocks east or west, it's not as bad. And the closer you get to the water, definitely tends to be less of that activity. But it's just something to keep in mind. Aurora, if you're looking at houses in some of those areas, definitely can be a little bit sketch, especially at night. You know, for the most part, probably not going to be super affected by it, but just when I go walking around like by yourself at night along Aurora, because it definitely has a sketchy vibe. And the number 5 thing that we're going to talk about is Shoreline's very car-centric. So not necessarily a terrible thing, but if you're wanting to move to the area, you're wanting a really walkable area, you don't want to have a car, Shoreline, you're definitely, unless you can move somewhere that's close to those light rail stations, it's mostly car-centric. I mean, there are buses that go along Aurora that I just talked about and along some of the surface streets that will get you into Seattle and then up north, but it's still fairly car-centric. So if you're wanting a super walking urban vibe, Shoreline's not quite there yet. Like I said, I think that once the light rail comes in, we'll start seeing some of those areas near those stops get more concentrated and more dense and a lot more happening, and it can be a little bit walkable. but at the moment, it's just not the most walkable neighborhood, definitely very car centric. So just something to keep in mind too. So those are kind of some of the 5 things that I guess would be cons and something that you should be aware of. If you're thinking of moving to Shoreline and you're okay with those 5 things, well, then move there. And if you're thinking of moving, give us a call, email, text. We got your back when you're moving to Seattle.